I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles, your favorite true crime podcast. I am Donnie, and with me is a man that wants everyone to know that if you're having trouble falling asleep, just pretend you have to get up in 5 minutes. It's Dale.
That's the way it is, ain't it?
It is.
Can't sleep all night. Well, it's time to go to work in 15 minutes. Sleepy as hell.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. I just don't get it. I do my best sleeping right before I have to get up.
Right between the snoozes, right?
Yeah, that's the best sleep.
Damn brain tricks.
Man, I don't understand it. And you wake up and your brain is just all over the place, and then you go back to sleep and don't want to get up.
Don't want to get up at all.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I've been staring at the ceiling for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Tossing, turning, and then sleeping good, and the alarm goes off in 2 minutes.
I know. I don't understand it.
Oh, well.
If anybody knows the answer, let me know.
Yeah, we'll do a show.
What's going on, dude?
You, man. Same old, I guess.
Same old.
A little better than that, but, trying to get one in right quick.
Yeah. We got a good episode today.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's going to be really neat. I think it's one we're going to have a lot of fun with.
Yeah. Because, we've talked about this case quite a bit.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. We're not going to do any intros or talk about anybody today. We're just going to jump into this episode because, this case is pretty special to us.
It is.
Yeah, we're talking about Asha Degree again today on this episode.
Yeah, I know you did one before I joined up on episode 3, and then we done one with another podcast on episode 99, and it's really... I'm really glad we did that because I really wanted to get in here and get my feet wet on that show. I mean this subject, because it's just something that's really close to us, and I think we should do a lot more on it. So I think that's where we're going to start today. Yeah,
that episode we did was with Murder on My Street podcast.
Yes,
with Jenny Bailey.
Exactly.
Yeah. And she was a super lady to talk to us about her thoughts on the Asha Degree case.
Well, that was a neat one because they're from the West Coast, so they were getting our perspective, just being just a couple miles down the road, and them from far away, and then we could give them a little insight on, how the terrain actually is, and the ins and outs of what's going on, and what we hear here locally as far as and compare that to what they had out there.
Yeah,
it was kind of neat. Yeah,
I'm sure the news is reported differently wherever they're at,
right?
And they listen to podcasts and stuff and try to learn as much as they can, but. Like I said, this Asha Degree went missing just it was 6 miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not far at all.
Not far at all.
And I pass the sign at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I always look at it.
Yeah, I do, man. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
But we're doing something a little bit different. We're talking about Asha Degree, but we get
one more different perspective.
Yeah, we've got David James. He is a retired law enforcement, retired police chief in Gaston County, and he's just giving us his law enforcement perspective on Asha Degree's case.
Yeah, we got a couple questions we want to ask him, about how, what do they do with this and how does that work and this kind of stuff. So I know he can't drop a lot of information even if he knew on an open case, but, we really invite his insight.
Yeah, and we value his insight, and he's become a good friend with us, a good friend of the show.
Yep.
And
he's always open for us to bounce stuff off. Whatever we need, he's always there and answers right away. So he's just a great friend to us, and it's about time for you guys to meet him, I think.
Yeah, and he owes us a lunch, by the way, too.
Yes, he does.
Yep. But we want to welcome David James to the show. Welcome to the show, David.
Thanks, guys. Great to be on your show.
We're glad to have you. Before we get going, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us your credentials and who you are, man.
Wow, I don't know if you listeners want to hear that, but we'll do it.
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay. Like guy said, I'm the retired Belmont police chief in Gaston County. Been in law enforcement 40 years. Started my career up in Kannapolis, North Carolina. I was there 22 years. Left, wanted to be a chief of police. I don't know what I was thinking about that when I did that move. And went to Belmont, North Carolina, in Gaston County there. Worked there 7 years, retired. Then I was the interim chief at Mount Holly, North Carolina, for about a year. And I still work in law enforcement, a little part-time now, just enough to keep up to speed with everything. And some of my background and my training, I graduated from Belmont Abbey there in Gaston County. I went to the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. This is for police executives. About 1% of law enforcement officers in the United States ever get to go to it, so that was a big deal.
Sweet. Yeah.
Quantico there, and I went to NC State's officers, administrative officers management program there, and gosh, I teach a little bit too. I teach at a community college, adjunct instructor in their 2-year degree program. I've investigated a lot of cases and helped in a lot of cases over the years, and just a lot of experience. Don't claim to know everything, but I enjoy going back and looking at old cases, and I sort of have a niche for that. And that's sort of how I got up on the Asha Degree case.
Yeah. So you've locked up some bad guys in your day, huh?
Just a few.
Yeah, that's right. All right.
That's quite a background.
But like we said, Asha, her story, it's right here in our county, man, and we take it personal. And we wanted to get you on the show to get your law enforcement perspective on the case and get your insight on some things and some questions we have about her case, man.
Yeah, you're right. We've done a couple shows. Well, Donnie done one before I came on, and then we done one with another podcast. I think it was episode 99 with Murder on My Street with Jenny Bailey. And so that was the first one I got to do a lot of discussions, going with what we know against what she knew, and just giving her some little ins and outs because it's just right here. But I don't think we've ever done anything with your kind of perspective from the other side looking in. So it's always been a hearsay, this, and this. And so we'd like to really pick your brain and let you drop some stuff on us, and really glad you're with us today.
That's right.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. I mean, this case is a very unique case, in my opinion. You just don't see a lot of these cases happen around, especially, in a small community like that, and in a geographical location that where the Degree family lived and stuff, and it just sort of, it's one of those anomalies to me. It's like way off base,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Yeah. So tell us, David. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
The day she went missing, they called law enforcement out, and they got there pretty quick. What would have been law enforcement's first thing they would have done when they got on scene? What would have been the protocol to handle the case when they got there? What would they have done?
A lot of it is, is getting the information out to other officers and in the jurisdiction of where she went missing. Description, just the basic police 101 stuff, securing a crime scene. If you thought, a crime was committed, because a lot of times in law enforcement work, we have a lot of kids that run away, and some that go missing, some that are hiding in their home. And, a thorough search would be done of the residents there to start with,
Mm-hmm.
And because most kids and juvenile, as I call it juvenile, under the legal age, they're mostly runaways, and they come back. But with Asha, with her being the age of 9, I mean, that's really an anomaly that she's gone, and and the family doesn't know where she's at.
Yeah. Would have law enforcement, would they have interviewed the family members separately, or would they have interviewed them together, or how would that have worked?
You mean on scene or
on the scene? On the scene.
Yeah, probably initially on the scene. They probably would have tried to talk to them, as much separately as you can. But you got to remember, you got a chaotic scene going on. You got a 9-year-old girl missing, and you're trying to get all the information out. So, you may not at that initial time be able to interview them, really by themselves until things get sort of calmed down. As I call it, organized Chinese fire drill sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it's chaos, and especially when you have somebody that young missing. But in a perfect world, you have to remember there's no perfect investigation. There's no perfect case like we see on TV and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
And the thing would be, to get the information, what she was wearing, what they knew about the event. I mean, just like in the Asha case, with everything I've researched and looked into, just in a non-professional way, is she just sort of vanishes into the middle of the night.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess what you're saying, if you come in and you don't think it's a crime right off the bat, but really you're just more worried about a missing child, so they would come in and kind of secure and look around and then get all the info from the family and then hit that on the airways as soon as possible.
Right.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And the problem is that we have a lot of these. I mean, it's not uncommon, but it's sort of uncommon for that age too. And
right.
My wife, to throw her in here, she's a school counselor in an elementary school, and I've talked to her about this case, and it's very unusual for a 9-year-old female to just walk off into the night.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially one that's terrified of storms and it's in the middle of the night and it's a storm and it's cold and as far as we know, didn't have a jacket or anything, just what we think is nothing but a backpack and go.
That's the thing. She, and all accounts, and you can help me if I get a little bit off base, but she's gone. They interview the family. They bring the canines down for a search. They get search parties looking, and then they come up. Let me back up. Initially, there was no forced entry to the residence, so nobody broke in, took her away that way. She had a key, and at that residence, there where they were living, was a duplex apartment.
Correct.
And all the time I was thinking in my mind it was a sort of a larger house, but from y'all doing your story and going to the different locations, it's like the duplex maybe was, at most 1,100 square feet.
Right.
So we're not talking about that big a residence,
No, it's like probably 2 bedrooms. A bathroom is probably in between them, and then the other side is like a kitchen with a small wall and a little small living room. Most duplexes I've been into, anyway.
Yeah.
So that's what I figure.
Yeah, and as a first responder going to the scene, you have to rely on what information you get there. And all that, because I knew a deputy who was working at Cleveland County that night, actually, when Asha Degree went missing. He was out answering calls. They had a bad storm that night. The weather was cold, rainy. They had alarms going off all over the county. So, it wasn't a night that if I was going to run away or go away, that I would pick, and my personal opinion. Yeah,
definitely. It's kind of one of those deals where if you were planning to run away, you'd maybe want to wait till the next day. But if it's something to where you thought you had to go meet somebody or you're trying to get away from something, maybe that would take a chance. That's one of the things we talked about here.
Yeah, and I think too is jumping back to what we would do on the scene too is get all that information pushed out to people and look. So, it's because most of the kids that's ran off and walked away that we get called on, and I've been on. It's like we find them hiding in a house somewhere. We find them sleeping in a car. They may be in an outbuilding. They may just be, I've seen that all the time. But with her, they go to bed. The father looks in on them I think it was around 2:30 in the morning, somewhere in there. And then, about 6:30ish, sometime in there, the mom is getting them up. They're going to start their bath water to get them up, and she's gone.
Yeah. You mentioned the rain, and then they brought out search dogs. And I've heard this several different ways, David. How does search dogs react to rain and stuff? I've heard that the rain will actually bring out the scent, and I've heard in other cases that the rain hinders it a little bit. What's
the truth?
What's the truth? My experience with it is usually with the rain, if it's a heavy rain or a misting rain or whatever, a lot of times it will keep the scent there close to the ground. So, in my professional opinion, it would be easier for a dog to pick up a track.
Yeah.
But if you got a lot of wind blowing and stuff, because, when you're walking around, we don't think about this, but we're shedding the scales on our body, skin, and that's what the dogs are picking up. But the wind's blowing, it could disturb the track, and, the dogs could be all over the place. And it takes a good handler, good dog. It takes a perfect condition. I've seen it work hundreds of times with dogs tracking people, and and I've seen it hundreds of times where it didn't work out. So it's a canine's just like a tool, like anything else.
Yeah. So you said it was a bad storm that night, and the power was knocked out the house, and they couldn't give Asha and her brother a bath that night, and had to wait till the next morning. That was the plan that their mom had.
Correct. Something about a car hit a pole or...
Yeah, there was a car. Did you hear anything about a car hitting a pole or anything, David, or a wreck?
Yeah, there was a wreck somewhere there close in the community. I don't know the exact location, but it was a motor vehicle accident, and it knocked the power out. And so, here we are. We have no power, and for that time period where, she wanted to get the kids a bath, and so, they went to bed and stuff. And, there's just a lot of variables in this thing. And, and law enforcement, in my opinion, has done a good job with this. The sheriff's department was on the scene quickly. They got involved with North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation. They ended up, the FBI is investigating the case still, the Sheriff's Department is investigating it still, and the SBI is still investigating the case. And I know some of the investigators and are super top-notch people. And, it's just hard for me to comprehend that, they get leads every once in a while, and you have to work through a lead, because when you put stuff out, you get a lot of people calling in with stuff, and then you got to filter through to the actual tip,
Yeah.
It's just one of those cases that it really is unique. It's just with all the time that it's been, and where I know that we have some truck drivers that's on highway, I think it was 18, that actually thought they saw her, or said they saw her, and reported they saw her.
It was about a mile away.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, about a mile.
What do you think about that? Because
as an investigator, that's one of those things that I want to make sure that these people who said they saw something are telling the truth.
Right.
And not saying that they were not or whatever, but that's a key point in my case is if I've got some trustworthy person can say, hey, I saw this at this time and right here,
Yeah, me and Donnie's kind of beat this theory to death, trying to figure out if it was true or not. And evidently the first guy was supposedly a Sundrop truck driver, so we figured it's not a semi-truck, but one of those longer I don't know, the one with the slide up doors is what we're assuming.
A 10-wheel.
Yeah, 10-wheel truck or whatever. But if you know the area, and they said he had turned around like 3 times, there's not really a lot of places he could turn around. And he would have to go way past it up to another church, turn around for a lot to turn around, unless he, I'm sure he ain't whooping in somebody's driveway. And then he would have to come all the way back down to where the 18 turns into a 4-lane, which is not, it's right below the sign, the Asha Degree sign, and turn around maybe in that store parking lot. But the thing about turning around 3 times, I just don't know about that. What is your opinion on that?
I mean, I've rode out by that location, and I looked at it, and I'm not really familiar with it, but this is my whole deal. If we got 2 people that saw somebody, that thought there was a kid or thought they're in trouble, it looks like to me that somebody would have stopped and called the police or the sheriff's department or somebody like that instead of later on,
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm not saying, I'm trying to remember back in 2000 what my access to my cell phone was,
Well,
because everybody's got them now.
Right. Well, I'm sure you had one, because I had one that morning. I was coming to work, but it was, hours after this, and I was working at Bernhard Industries in Shelby at the time. So I was coming down through, and I think Donnie as well went through the roadblock they had, but I was talking to someone on the phone when I came up to it. And I was later in the cell phone game, so I'm pretty sure you had one, but I don't know about everybody else now, but at that time.
Yeah, my question is, and this is just the police, why didn't somebody go somewhere and call somebody?
Yeah, if you're going to turn around 3 times, why wouldn't you stop and call?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's kind of like he's putting a whole lot of effort into stuff. It's not helping, if you ask me.
Well,
yeah, and what I've read too, and the research that I've done on it too was, one of them was they had 2 actually people that saw something, saw her. One was the drink truck guy, and the other guy was a truck driver who actually used to be a sheriff's deputy.
I'm glad you said that, because me and Donnie used to work at the mall back in the day, and I'm pretty sure it's the same fellow. Now, it might be just the same name, but we knew that Roy. Is it the same Roy that we used to be?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, yeah.
So,
Roy Blanton.
Roy Blanton, yeah.
Roy Blanton.
Yeah, and he was always a really nice guy to us at the mall as kids hanging out,
Mm-hmm.
So we often wondered if that was the same one.
That's my understanding with the research and stuff that I did. That he was a former deputy, and my understanding, they talked to these 2 guys pretty thorough. And, I don't know if they, in the investigation, if they polygraphed them, asked them to come in for one. And, the polygraph, that's just a tool, too, just like a dog we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
In North Carolina, you can't use the polygraph in court, but it's a tool. And, did both these guys take the polygraph, or did they show that they were telling the truth instead of being deceptive? It's what assuming does to both of us. So.
Right.
Yeah. There was some stuff found at Debbie Turner's little upholstery shop in a building she had back there behind the shop. I think it was a hair bow and pencils, maybe some candy wrappers and stuff.
In a photo.
Yeah, I think it was a photo of a little girl.
Yeah.
Yes.
How would law enforcement have handled this stuff? Would they have checked it for anything, or they just
they could see
bag it up?
They would seize it for evidence, and because that was in the general location where she got missing, and I think my understanding is that they were like a hair bow, some pencils. There was a Atlanta Olympic pencil there, and hair bow, and then some candy wrappers.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the picture, like a school picture, like an elementary school picture of a young lady there too, and
it was in black and white.
They would have seized all that stuff and collected it as evidence.
Yeah. I don't know.
And the thing is I think those people ran an upholstery shop there.
They did, yeah.
And was that stuff there from Asia, or was that stuff that maybe over the time frame fell out of old couches, old chairs, or whatever?
Yeah.
But you know, you would collect that as evidence, and now from 2000 to 2023, you know, with the DNA testing and stuff like that, you know, you could test the stuff that they found, you know.
Yeah.
They started, I know, the search at the house, and then they expanded it, and then they searched. When they searched the shed, I know they had found those items, but and I think they talked to the people there. I think they were Turners, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, David Turner. Yeah,
Debbie Turner.
That was there, that lived there. And I think they had dogs and stuff there somewhere close. And if I'm not mistaken, they said that, you know, they didn't hear any of the dogs barking that night or anything too, you know.
Right. Yeah. And me and Donnie both have done some reupholstery in our day, and we know you can find all kind of crazy stuff in there. And then so we were talking about that earlier, but then I think Donnie wanted to ask you
about some DNA laws. North Carolina like DNA laws. What is the law for North Carolina as far as being able to submit DNA for testing? I mean, I know in other places I've heard that it has to be murder or rape or something for it to be. How is it in North Carolina? What are the laws?
There's certain felony cases in North Carolina that is mandatory DNA testing. When you get arrested, let's say for a sexual assault or an armed robbery or something like that, you automatically get tested. You get swabbed. They swab your mouth, and then your your DNA is identified and then put into the DNA system. CODIS, the nationwide. CODIS is a nationwide clearinghouse for DNA. You know, sometimes you can take a lot of these old cases are getting cleared up because the technology has changed on the DNA testing. It's easier than it was a long time ago, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, he told me today that he had heard that really the only thing that law enforcement or local could submit was for a murder case or a rape charge or something.
Actually, I have knowledge of a case that was submitted. It was 6 or 7 months ago. It was an investigation in Gaston County. I won't tell where.
Right.
But it was a part of a glove, surgical glove, the tip of it. And it was involved in a home invasion case, and they got a DNA hit off of that.
So it would be possible if they wanted to. I guess it comes down to money when you look at it, I guess.
Well, you can. The agencies in North Carolina can submit DNA testing to the Department of Justice lab, or it used to be the FBI lab. The Department of Justice is over the lab now, but you can submit it. They have, you know, what you can submit, how you can submit it, and they got rules and regulations. And some agencies use the SBI lab, and some agencies use private vendors, that, you know, the companies that do DNA testing.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I just didn't know how much DNA they would have had from Asha, because, you know, they found her book bag sometime later up 18 north. It's about 26 miles away in Burke County.
Yeah, and it was in a double bag trash bag. So.
Yeah. So
yeah, and that's one of those odd things too, where they found the book bag. And
yeah, it's way up there. We rode up there.
Yeah.
The location, and you know, it was in the book bag was double bagged and, you know, garbage bags, and the guy was, I think he was building a house or a driveway and unearthed it.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of odd to us that, you know, if you were going to get rid of something, unless you were planning on going back to get it, why would you double bag it and not just burn it or destroy it or something? I mean, it looks like double bag is trying to save it
somewhere.
Right? Yeah. If he's going all that trouble, it seems like he's saving it.
Yeah, and you know, that's one of those things that you know, when they found that, I'm sure, and the FBI was involved in that case at that time. and I'm sure that they preserved all that. I know of cases though where you go back and test it, like a case from 20 years ago, or like this, or 25 years ago. DNA testing, the procedure and the amount of stuff you need to test for DNA has changed. And sometimes I can remember we would test for DNA and it basically would eat up all the sample, all the evidence, and so you could only test it one time.
Right.
Yeah.
But things have changed now. I mean, it's unbelievable what they can do with that stuff.
You'd think that thing would, that book bag been double bagged, everything would have been pretty well preserved inside that thing.
Yeah, and you would think if he took, well, I see him saying he, but it would be some in there as long as
yeah.
Yeah. To me, there'd be something in there, and that's one of those deals. The gentleman that found the bag, he opened it up and all that stuff, and I think he took it home, and he wasn't even familiar about the case really.
I think it was his wife that knew. Yeah.
His wife, and then they called the sheriff's department there. So, on something like that we would test it again.
Tell me something about they found a New Kids on the Block T-shirt and a McGilligott's Pool book that they've released. They said they had information on. Do you think it's possible there's more stuff that they found, or are they just releasing tidbits at a time? How does law enforcement work on stuff like that? Do they just pick and choose what they release?
It depends on the case and the whole spectrum of what's going on with the case and what type of case it is. And always as investigators, I'm not going to tell all the tricks of the trade, but you always keep an ace in the hole, and you do that. But with a case like this, stuff has trickled out. About the book and the New Kids on the Block T-shirt and things like that, and tracing the book back. Could you trace the book back to the library? And I think the records didn't go back that far, in my knowledge, on that. And actually, I had my wife get that book out of her library at school, so I read it, and they were thinking about maybe that influenced her to run away or leave. And it's just keeping stuff out. But you got to keep people, got to keep the public. You play one of those. How much do I let out? How much do I keep? But you got to keep the public interested when you got a case. And when I say a whodunit,
Right.
or something, you got to keep, because you might have police officers going to work today that have no idea about Asha Degree.
That's right.
Yeah.
They weren't even born when Asha Degree got missing. So even passing information among law enforcement and keeping it out to the media, but you got to keep enough interested, keep the public interested in the case, and hopefully that it'll work its way out to somebody that knows something. I mean, it's just, I think y'all do a great job on the cases that you put up, the murderers that haven't been solved, the missing people. That piques people's interest, and you never know when you might run across that person that has that key piece of evidence.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, there's a green car that's involved with this. People, they let out that it could be a, let's see, I think it was a
Lincoln,
a Lincoln,
or a Thunderbird.
Yeah,
but it was a 70.
Lincoln or a Thunderbird.
Yeah. But that was how long later was that tidbit dropped down? It was later.
I think they released it around 2016.
So 16 years.
Yeah.
That's what I had in my notes. I was looking at it. It was an early model Lincoln Mark IV, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Green in color, and it had a little note about rust around the fender wells.
Right.
That's a pretty good description about something from somebody.
Yeah. especially seeing something in the dark on a rainy night.
Yeah, I mean, is that somebody that may have picked her up walking? Somebody that may, ran over her in the road and picked her up, or somebody who just kidnapped her off the side of the road. Most cases in homicide, missing persons, and things like that, most of those cases are people who cross the path of each other. They know each other by some means.
Mm-hmm. It's just not random.
Yeah, we couldn't be.
No, it's just there are very few random cases like this. You do have them, but they're very few. The percentage is very low.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would probably have to be with their path, crossing their path at the perfect time for something random to happen, I would think.
Yeah, but one of those things. But somewhere they got that information that they thought it was good enough to put that car out there. But I've worked the case before and looking for a vehicle or something like that, and there are all kind of computer stuff you can do with that offline, and looking and narrowing down those vehicles. So that's a pathway to that. But then if you find these cars, let's say if you find 500 of them in North Carolina, you got to track them down.
Mm-hmm. Find out the one that's got the rusty wheel.
You can go in there and search. You get somebody to do a search. Give me all the white VW Volkswagens in Cleveland County that's registered, and I could get that pretty quickly back to me if I knew it was a white VW.
Right.
But the way cars change hands and don't get registered properly and stuff like that, that it sounds like it's easy, but it's really not.
Yeah, I'm sure the list is longer than you think usually too, but I don't know about a 1970 nowadays Mark IV, which it could be in the crusher by now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a unique car to me.
Yeah.
It's just not like every little Honda Accord or anything like that you see out there.
Right, those are one of those.
It's pretty unique.
Like a 70-foot long car back in the day.
Oh yeah, it's like a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the book, found in her book bag, and I was reading something in my research here that said about 90 to 95% of the items that was found in the book bag was Asha's, that they could identify that as Asha's.
Wow.
So, are there more stuff there that, we don't know about?
Oh, of course. Coming up next February, it'll be 24 years. Where does law enforcement need to go now on this case? I mean, do they need to release some more stuff? Do they need to come out and make a statement on some stuff? Because they hadn't told us anything in a while. Because they brought the FBI in a while back, and they had a task force looking into it, and we never did really hear much after that. So,
right.
Yeah, I know that the FBI brought their I think it's the card team about the child finding lost children, and they specialize in that. And you got some of the brightest and smartest people, but if you don't have it, you don't have it. The information, the evidence, or whatever. And I think too in law enforcement, this has been a long time, and you can say maybe it's a cold case. Nobody's been arrested, and she hadn't been found, so really it's still an active case. But it's got people working it. You have to think about most law enforcement agencies, the size of them. They don't have enough personnel to work cold cases. That's all they do. They have to work everything else.
Oh yeah.
So too, and top of this, and a good thing too is, and I'm sure they've probably done it, is get a fresh set of eyes to look at the case. I know one investigator who's worked on the case. He's a retired chief and has worked on it some. Don't have any knowledge of what his work was or anything like that. But getting people with some experience and a fresh set of eyes on something to look at it. Just to see if, in law enforcement, sometimes we get, just like people, we get tunnel vision sometimes. And we get focused in on one item or one thing, and we don't, as I was saying, we don't think outside the box a lot sometimes,
Right.
And you just have to, get a fresh set of eyes to look at the case. And to do that. And you have and I'm sure there's thousands of pages of documents that's with this case,
Right. Probably a whole lot of stuff they ain't never told anybody, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure of that. But like I said, I know some of the guys that's worked on it, some bright guys, and it's just all the pieces of the puzzle was not there, and we're looking for this piece of the puzzle to put it all together.
Mm-hmm. I just didn't know how confident they would be in releasing more stuff, maybe keep Asha's story out there, because that's what it takes, man. It keeps keep it in the public eye, keep people aware of it, keep people talking about it. Because if you got people talking about it, you can get stuff done.
Yeah, because the word of mouth travels a whole lot better than anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And and the investigation, I'm sure that initially they looked at the family. You always look at the closest people to whoever the victim is.
Yeah.
You want to clear these people out first, so you don't have to worry about that. You can move on to other directions with other people. And I know that they had some people, had a guy that was in jail that said he had information, and then he got transferred to the Cleveland County Jail, and I think the guy was trying to escape from the jail. He had a bunch of false information.
Yeah.
So, but you got to get it, the information's got to get out to the right people.
Yeah. And
I think it's one of those things that the people in the community, and with Asha, her family, you start with that circle of people, then you start with her neighborhood. They were very active in church.
Yeah.
You even check there. You check those people. You check at school. You check her sports. You've got these what I call buckets of people that you have to go through and take a look at. And even doing the searches, as I know of cases, of read cases that where somebody involved in the disappearance or the death of somebody actively helped search for them.
Oh yeah, we've come across that a good bit.
Yeah,
actually, that's kind of scary.
And one of those things is I'm sure law enforcement has checked those, but getting all the pieces of the puzzle together, and there's an art to it. There's a little bit of luck to it too, and then there's the forensic science part.
Yeah, and a little bit of common sense in there too, I imagine.
Oh yeah, a lot of common sense.
They have a walk. They have a walk every year for Asha. They walk from where the duplex was up to the sign there on 18. It's a mile walk. And I went through there last year or this past year when they was having the walk, and there was law enforcement presence there. There were some county deputies around. And do you think they were out, not just for crowd control, but maybe, observing the ones that were walking? Maybe
that's a possibility. I know of cases where back in my younger days, being an investigator at Chronicles, we have a death or something, you would go to the funeral to see who came.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And yeah, you want to go those routes. That's thinking outside the box.
Yeah, definitely.
With stuff, trying to identify people that put themselves in the investigation or show up at things. And there's a lot of moving parts for this case, and you have to have a dry erase board and draw a flow chart.
Yeah. On
this thing. And it's just the big thing that my thing is identify those guys who saw her that night, is making sure that what they saw was that Asha. That's the key.
Comparing stories.
And, those people, are the key. So you could say, hey, she was here at this time. We have no doubt. We're 100%.
Yeah.
And, that gives you somewhere to start. It's like, I know from the research and stuff, they said they didn't have a computer in the home. They were pretty strict about what they watched on TV. And even Asha, she was pretty conservative, just being, she was active in church, she was active in sports, and they're at home, and that was about it. So, her sphere of people would be a whole lot less than you or I,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, her neighborhood and school and church was pretty much it for her.
And sports.
Yeah. That's right.
And, and interviewing, and I'm sure they've done hundreds of interviews with people, and, with school. I know they talk to her school teachers, with sports, and all those things. And, the big thing, too, is as an investigator, setting up a timeline of, when events happened, when did she go missing, what was the events before. I know there was some question about the dad, what time he got home from work, and that he may have left and went to some kind of store to buy candy.
Yeah, I think it was CVS or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. And you want to go and build these timelines where you can say, well, he was there at this time, or whoever, just, for the clarification of what went on that night.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
With everybody. So, you have to build a timeline to put them there. But that's, like I said, it's a lot easier said than done sometimes, because you get conflicting stories and stuff like that. And it's just, to me, it's one of these anomaly cases that you just don't see many of them.
It's just not
this case.
It's not your typical child disappearance.
No, not at all. And the big thing now is, people grooming kids for later on.
Mm-hmm.
And, that goes on in the world. Was somebody grooming her to run away, but like her leaving the house, she was either running away from something or running to something, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so as well.
It's there's some reason she left. If we go on that first, the two truck drivers that saw her, we go off what the parents said and all that, and we don't have any, red flags that come up. It's like, hey, she just vanished.
Yeah. And it's so hard because there's hardly anything. It's just she's gone. Nobody's seen her leave. Nobody knows nothing, and it's kind of a hearsay. Did you see or did you not see truck driver thing? And that's about all we got, ain't it?
Yeah, and that's why you have to nail down people on their statements and on their interviews and stuff. Just to help the investigator, because it's chaos working one of these cases, and it takes a lot of people.
Yeah, I know here in Cleveland County, this case is talked about quite a bit. People talk about it, and when they get into discussions about it, there's some people get into arguments over what they think happens. I mean, very strong, opinionated talks about this. So we try to do what we can to get the word out, and that's why we had you on here to try to get a law enforcement perspective. But I think, to me, just being a podcaster, I feel like law enforcement needs to let out a little bit more, make some more frequent statements about it. Especially on the anniversary. Make a public statement, put something in the paper. I don't know. That's just me being
frustrated, basically.
Yeah. Let us tell us stuff.
what, and we would want to put it out there. I know a missing person case we had in Belmont. A guy, when I took over as chief, he'd been missing several months, and his mom and dad came and talked to me, and we had an idea of what had happened to him, but we didn't have the pieces. So it took probably a year, and then his body was found, and he'd been murdered, and actually Gastonia police charged the guy with murder and convicted the guy, but this guy was missing for a long time.
Wow.
It's one of those cases just like that you never give up on,
Mm-hmm.
And the investigators, they don't give up on them. It's just they're overwhelmed with the caseload they carry and not making excuses for them. It's just and a lot of times you run into dead ends, and with the podcast or something like that can generate new leads maybe.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of rumors around, and, people talk, especially on this end of the county where it was going on, and people think this, and I've heard, people has mentioned their dad, which we have nothing to go on out, and I don't know about that either. And then I've also heard talk of a basketball coach, and I was wondering, you think I'm assuming they've probably talked to anybody and everybody that was connected to her in some form or fashion. So,
yeah, I'm sure that anybody that had any kind of contact with her, at the least, they would interview them. Because that's that core group of people that she was around most of the time,
right?
And most of those type of crimes happen by people and who you wouldn't think it would be,
Yep.
For sure.
And I know that there was a guy, I can't remember his name right now. He was charged with killing a girl about Asha's age, and they were trying to figure out if he was involved. And they were never ever to put him into place. But this kid was abducted, and they found her body behind a school. And but never could put him there or anything. But but with the DNA and forensics and stuff like that. You just have to. You hear of cases, and we see of cases. I think we talked the other day about where the girl was missing for several years and showed up at a police station.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And,
not long ago.
Yeah.
Alicia Navarro.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong. There was in Aisha's case, there was like a lady or a girl who was working at the hospital, maybe there in Shelby.
Yeah.
And had the same similarities as Asha would, and sort of she got missing. That was some of the stuff that I'd heard, but she had worked there. But law enforcement, if they got that tip, they would go and and go over her personnel file and records with a fine-tooth comb, like that.
Yeah, when that happened, we heard that the SBI had actually come to town to check it out, but she had already gone when they got there. That's kind of what we heard, the short version anyway.
I'm sure if they did, and I'm sure if they got that information, they would find out who that person was. There are ways about doing that, but it's just I think that it's locally. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's somebody locally that had some connection with Asia.
Yeah. Somebody that just hadn't been identified yet. That's just right there in the circle.
It's hopefully, time. The problem with time, time goes on, and the cases get older, and people lose interest in them. And this is something that with your help, you're helping law enforcement keep this out in the public, and hopefully it will generate some tips for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's been a little while back now, but somebody sent us a couple photos. They saw some signs that were posted off the exit from the Dallas-Cherryville Highway where it goes on to St. Mark's Church Road. And it was like a handwritten sign, and it says, Lock Bell, L-O-C-K-E, Bell, where is Asha Degree? The Philbecks are scared. And then it says, down at the bottom, it says, Black Planet, Ronald Bear. And then there's another sign. It says, Lock Bell knows the answers to this crime. and it was just 2 handwritten signs stuck on the side of the road. And somebody forwarded them to us and said, maybe you guys need to check into this. And I was like, wow, this just kind of blew my mind because this is not that long ago. But I had never heard anything.
I hadn't heard about that. That's interesting.
We'll send you a copy of these photos.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely get you this information and see if you can run it through any or just run it by anybody or anything else. But
I'll pass it on to some people.
Yeah, it kind of blew my mind today that I got it in a text. It goes, hey, I saw this and I think you guys need to check into it. And it was posted right here off the Dallas Cherville Highway at St. Mark's Church Road. And I'm like, wow.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, just a handwritten sign, like a yard sale sign stuck up on the side of the road. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Odd. You know, Asha Degree's mom did an interview with Jet magazine.
Right.
And you know, I'm trying to read, you know, get educated up on all of her stuff over the years, and I had a big file just sitting in my house, and you know, I go through here, and this is a statement off the Jet interview here. It says, did the police find any clues at all? This is what they asked her mother. And her answer was 2 motorists had spotted her that morning at 3:30 a.m. and 4:15. That's when they stopped looking at me as if I had something to do with it. We didn't even have a computer because every time you turn on the TV, there's some child molester there basically had lured some child away. And it's pretty interesting if you get a chance to look at the Jet interview of her.
Yeah.
For the mom.
It's very specific, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talked about, and I think she was like on the Montel Williams show, too.
Yeah, I think it did Oprah, too.
Yeah. So, you know, this is one of those cases that, you know, something's just going to have to get a break in it. One of those breaks, somebody listening to the podcast, or, you know, the reward money is out there, you know, because I know people who would tell on their mama for the money they have out there, you know?
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, we just pray that, you know, they get a break in the case and they continue working it and do the best they can, you know?
Yep.
It sure seems like law enforcement done everything right and as much as they could, and, you know, they're to be commended for that because they definitely didn't mess around. We just don't have much to go on as far as we know on this side. You know, they may have a little bit, like you say, close to the vest, but yeah, I mean, and I don't think I think the parents actually went in and said, "Clear me first," so you know, just so we can get on with it, didn't they?
Yeah. That's, you know, my understanding that, you know, I'm pretty sure they polygraphed the dad, and I think they did the mom too, and which that would just be standard protocol,
right? Yeah.
You know, to get those people first and get the information they have about, you know, anybody else, because a lot of times, you know, did she have any problem at school? Any problem in the family, cousins, friends, acquaintances? But, you know, here we're talking about a 9-year-old kid, you know?
Right. That's why it's so frustrating.
And that's just, it's hard to comprehend a 9-year-old kid just vanishing into the night if she was on that highway.
Yeah, walking out.
Yeah.
It's tough for me to believe anyway.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's just so hard to believe, knowing that she was supposedly, you know, afraid of storms, and on this night it was a hell of a storm, as you have said. Even had, you know, people back that up out on all those calls and stuff, and it just, unless it was just something that you had to go meet somebody. This is not just, if you're just planning on running away, I mean, you could pick another day, you know, because, I mean, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me.
It just, you know, it doesn't fit the profile of her personality and her being afraid of things and stuff. And, you know, she vanishes into the night like that. And I'm sure we're not the only people scratching our heads, you know?
Right.
Yeah. All right, Dave, is there any last words you got to say about Asha Degree before we close out, man? Any thoughts or comments you want to give us?
I think that, you know, I think law enforcement's, you know, they've been working on the case, I know, since it happened. You know, I know some of the investigators personally. I don't know anything about they're part of the investigation or anything. Some really good people, and they would do anything in the world to clear the case up. So, but you have to have that little break or that little tip from somebody in the community, because I can look with my eyes, but there's a whole lot of other eyes out in the community that see things and hear things that need to be reported. Sort of like if you see something, say something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I agree.
And
I agree totally.
It's a we thing. The community, the police, everybody. We have to work together to clear this case up.
Right. It'd be really cool to talk to one of those guys, but I'm sure they couldn't tell us nothing either.
Yeah, we've reached out, and we hadn't got much response back from Cleveland County authorities on her case.
If it's ongoing, they ain't gonna say nothing either.
No, they won't tell us nothing. They won't even. No, pretty tight-lipped on the whole thing, man.
Yeah, and that's pretty cut and dry for the police most of the time.
Right.
But and it frustrates people, I know, and but there is things about doing stuff on anniversary dates, or just a little something could help break the case wide open. But people, they have their reason, and I'm sure they got the best looking at it. But it'd be good if just one person could speak up and say that they saw something or used something that they could help them clear it up.
Right.
I agree, man. And something else I want to throw out there too, if anybody that's listening to this episode that knew Asha Degree, reach out to us. If you want to talk to us, we'll be glad to talk to you. Anybody went to school with her, played basketball with her, we'd love to talk to you.
Yeah.
Just get to know,
close with her, yeah.
Just get to know Asha a little bit better.
Yeah, it's more than a face on a sign,
That's exactly right. But David, man, we sure appreciate your insight and talking to us tonight, man.
Thanks for the time, bro.
Well, thanks, guys. I enjoyed listening to your podcast too, and it's a privilege to just get on there a little bit. I know we were like a shotgun blast; it went all over the place. But that's the way some of these cases are. They just take so many legs and grow.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we could have, just narrowed down and went, straight from the timeline and went right through it. But when we get into the stuff, then we have questions, and we're like, well, we're going to ask you this and ask you this and ask you this. So, if we want to come back and do a straight one all the way through the timeline and just follow it real strictly, we can do that too. So we're not done with Asha by a long shot.
Right, and I think that's a good thing. Is because they're like you said, you can hear people in the community, they still talk about this case to the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like she's going away or anything, but it's like, I'm sure that as a family, I talked to you about a case I had with two cousins who got killed.
Yeah.
And in Georgia back in 1974, their murder case is still unsolved. They were like 11 and 12 years old and got shot in the house, and one of the parents got shot. The two kids are killed, and it's still an open case in Georgia.
Yeah, I remember you telling us about that. It was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there are cases out there.
Oh, yeah. Happens every day, man.
Yeah, sadly it does.
Yeah. All right, David. Well, man, we sure appreciate you, bud.
I'll talk to y'all later.
All righty. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
All right, Dale. Man, I want to thank David again for coming on, giving his thoughts and perspective on Asha's case.
Yeah, pretty neat, huh?
Yeah. He's a very knowledgeable guy, and he knows his stuff.
Yep, and volunteering his time to jump on here with us.
Yeah, spend an hour with us, talk to us about Asha Degree. All right, Dale, we're going to get out of here, man.
Let's roll, man. We squeezed one in for everybody, and hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, we want everyone to be safe. Please be careful out there and watch out for each other, and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. You can turn $10 into $250. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/fan and use code FAN. That's code FAN at prizepicks.com/fan.
Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.